Star in Focus podcast. I'm your host, Deanna Oakes, and we have with us today the wonderful, fabulous, amazing Anissa Nierenberger. Hi, Anissa. How are you?
Hi, Deanna. I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well also. It's Friday, so we're all in a very good mood.
Woohoo.
Thank you so much for taking the time to join us and to educate people and just sort of spread the word about this amazing career. You have such a wealth of knowledge. So we are going to do our best to get a ton of knowledge in a very short amount of time. But why don't you just start and tell us a little bit about yourself and how you ended up in this career?
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here. As you said, my name is Anissa Nierenberger, and as I speak more, some people might think, I hear an accent, and that would be correct, I guess. I'm a Michigander. I was born and raised in Michigan, and I currently live in Boise, Idaho. And from being a little kid, I remember going to the dentist with my mom, and I would hear the blue Selectric typewriter, and I'd watch her fingers type on that, and I'd be just mesmerized. I'm like, that's the coolest thing, and I love the sound of it. I also got into tap dancing because I love the sound of it.
Yeah.
So it was a little just one of those things that just kind of since, I don't know, like probably 6, 7 years old. And then when I first saw my very first steno machine at a career day, that was it. That was it. My only disappointment was it didn't make any noise. It
Yeah,
didn't
I
make
was going to
it
say
didn't
that.
practice sound. Of course, it can't. But that was something that I was like, oh shoot, if only it made those sounds.
Yes, and then you could get that fixed. I feel like mine, if it starts to make noise, I'm like, oh, I need to clean it. But I know what you mean about how that kind of. I used to feel the same way about stilettos, and I loved them. But now when I'm wearing them, I just feel like it's very obnoxious in a quiet hallway or something. But as a child, I loved it.
Oh my gosh, yes. I loved wearing my tap shoes around the house and making as much noise as I could. Like that was just the best.
Do you still tap?
I don't, but I did go back to it twice as an adult, and I did tap,
That's
but
so
no more.
fun. Well,
No
it's there.
more.
It's like riding a bike, right? It's there if you want to pick it up again, I'm sure.
Shuffle ball change.
Yeah. That's awesome. So being in this career, I mean, I know a little bit about you, but I'm assuming that some of our listeners may not know. So you've had a long journey in this career. What education, what certifications did you get? How do you feel about certifications? I know it's a journey.
Definitely, yes. So, I graduated from court reporting school. I went right into captioning. I went into 6 months of very, very, very intense training to learn how to caption. So I'm the odd man out. I have never been a court reporter. I've never done a deposition, and I've never produced a transcript. So, but from that standpoint, because I had to learn from the very beginning, the creme de la creme real time, that is my expertise, and that has been my expertise for 30 years as a captioner. So, I'm a big fan of obviously of certifications. I think they really speak to the professionalism that each of us bring to this industry, and it just kind of backs us up. I mean, we can
Yeah.
say we do a certain thing, but then if we, have those certs behind our name, I think that's awesome.
Yeah. So why did you not go the court reporter route and go into captioning?
So all through school, I would tell my instructors I'm not doing transcripts, and they looked at me as if I was a Looney Tune. And after I graduated from school, I honestly could not find a court reporting job around the Lansing area in Michigan. And one of my classmates called and said, "Hey, do you want to learn how to do closed captioning?" And I was like, "What is that?"
Right.
And she listed off the benefits, and I'm like, "I'm in." No transcripts. All she had to say was no transcripts, and I'm like,
Right.
"I'll sell my soul."
Yeah.
And that was because I loved the machine. Like, I just wanted to spend all my time on the steno machine. Like, that was my true love.
Yeah.
And, so that's really where that came from. And so it wasn't a conscious, I think I put it out in the universe when I was in school, hoping maybe there was a way, even though at the
Yeah.
time, of course, I had no idea.
Right.
I kept in touch with my teacher and my court reporting instructor. And to this day, she's like, we thought you were crazy when you said that you weren't going to do transcripts. And here you are, you've never done one. And I'm like, nope.
Yeah, no, it is remarkable because the bulk of our work is certainly done, the bulk of our profession is certainly in, court work, legal work. Um, and so I'm just interested when you graduated, were you real time ready or did you actually have to go to more school in order to get there? Because now we learn, real time ready, although my dictionary is full of conflicts. But that's what we learn now. And so I don't think that theory existed back then, right?
It did in California. People who were in California at that time were being taught real time. However, I guess word hadn't spread to Michigan yet. So I had
Okay.
not been taught real time.
Okay.
So I had to relearn theory. And I only had a 6-month time frame to do it.
Wow, that is unbelievable.
It was, let's just say at that point in my life, I literally felt like I was losing my mind because my
Yeah,
mind was in steno overload.
I'm
It
sure.
was it was really, really cumbersome, but I just kept thinking of, to me, there was no plan B. Like, this is
Right.
the only way there is, so you are going to do this come heck or high water. And
Yeah.
so I just, I persevered. I did make it on air in 6 months. My speed still was not the best, so that continued to come back, of course, with more and more practice. And once I got on air as a captioner, and I loved learning. Like, the court reporting degree was 2 years straight through. It was an associate's, which I wanted to get out and start working as fast as I could. But then it always kind of bothered me that I didn't have a bachelor's, and so I did go back a couple of years ago, and I only had about 8 classes left to do, and I went ahead and got my bachelor's. So,
Good for
and it's in
you.
real-time reporting. So that kind of goes along with my, you know, absolute passion and love for steno, and just, yeah,
Yeah.
it was awesome.
So you got a bachelor in real-time reporting? I
I
didn't know you
do.
could do that.
Yes.
Oh, wow. I honestly did not even know that that was a thing. But I suppose if you can get an associate's, then you just have to take more. I mean, what were those classes? What did that entail?
Actually, the classes I had to take, only a couple of them were steno related. A lot of them were they were like 300 level classes.
Okay.
Tons of fun. Like, I had a lot of fun. I'm like, well, can't we just keep going? Like, I love learning and changing and evolving, and I'm an avid reader. Like, I just want to soak everything up. So,
Yeah, that's amazing. Good for you. That takes a lot of gumption, to go back into it. Luckily now, I'm sure you may have been able to go remotely, which I think is a huge, plus when you're trying to juggle a lot of working and because I mean, so busy. You have so much stuff going on, right? So you present at conferences, you teach one-on-one. Tell us a little bit about what your workload looks like right now, because I know you just have so many different facets of things that you do in this industry.
so, captioning for 30 years, I got to do some really cool things. And I loved my career. It was amazing. And for the last 10 years of it, I was balancing captioning and teaching and training. I started out
Okay.
teaching Caption Masters, which is a 4-month course. And I had started out teaching Caption Masters, and then I realized people need one-on-one real-time training. Like, I've got to create something that's going to really resonate with reporters. I know what's going on in their writing. I've seen it. I've trained 1,300 reporters now.
That's a
And
big
so,
number. Good for
yeah,
you.
1,300. Yep, in 10 years. So I finally decided in January to take a step back and to retire from captioning. That's enabled me to be fully present in teaching and training reporters. And I just really feel that with everything that's going on in our industry right now, there is no other time in our industry that this is more crucial to become real time ready. To get our dictionaries cleaned up, to make sure real time is working the way it should, to make sure that your dictionary is matching your current way of writing. I've actually come up with a very, very streamlined process and peak performance real time training. I can get almost all reporters through in 4 1-hour sessions.
Wow, that
And
is
peak performance,
remarkable.
yeah, I've really got it down to a science. It just only took me about a decade
Yeah.
to get there. But it's, I love working with reporters because there's nothing better than that confidence that you feel when you're writing real time and you're seeing it come up on the screen and you know that you're nailing stuff and you're like, yes, I did it. Oh my gosh, oh, this looks so beautiful. It's like when you're playing a video game and you keep getting to the next level, to the next level, to the next level. That's how I feel about, reporters and their real time skills. And I think once they get a glimpse of the better and the better and the better, they just want to keep going. They're like, oh my
Right.
gosh, this is fantastic. And of course, it greatly reduces their editing time. So
Yes.
anything that we can do to reduce time at the QWERTY board is gonna, help our sustainability in this profession.
No, you're absolutely right. And it just it dawned on me that, as part of our mission to sort of spread the word and educate, laymen about our career, some people may not know the difference when we're talking about real time and we're talking about captioning and court. So you just want to give us a quick little synopsis of what the difference is between being an actual, court reporter and a captioner, and then what exactly is real time, and like you said, how that is so beneficial.
Sure. So, court reporters are writing at their steno machines. They're writing what's being said, either in a court environment or in a deposition environment. They have the luxury of being able to go back and fix things and make things pretty, make things perfect.
Yes.
And as captioners, we don't have that luxury of the after. We only have the luxury of the pre-job, because I can make it perfect at the end, but no one's going to see it then.
Right.
So captioners are more on the spot. And real time, I'm actually really glad that you asked this question, Deanna, because, if I asked 5 different reporters if they're doing real time, I might get 5 different answers. I mean, is real time just simply hooking up your writer to your computer and bringing up a real time file in your software? Is that real time? Or is real time, I'm selling my real time because I have my CRR. I know that my total accuracy ratio is above 96%. That's real time. Or I just watch my screen myself. I don't allow anyone else to watch it, but I'm doing real time.
Right.
So there's lots of different definitions of real time.
Yeah, definitely. And I
Mm-hmm.
think the fact that like the English language, read and read are spelled the same way, but there, and there are spelled different ways, right? So knowing what there to use and writing that there instead of a different there is what you're talking about, right? Because those are things that, I did learn how to do that, but in previous generations, I don't think that they just wrote there one way and then they had to go back, like you said, afterwards when they produced the transcript and then pop in whichever the accurate one was. And
Yes.
I have learned so much about the English language because of the way that people speak and like not even knowing, I'm trying to think of a good example, but like, alluded, the word alluded, there's 2 different alludeds, just things
Mm-hmm.
like that I didn't even really, and I read a ton and I didn't know that they were like, oh my gosh, this is wrong. So it's really crazy, all of the intricacies that go into the language and how people speak.
There are, and with real time, where we don't have the luxury of going back and fixing things, I always tell people we're writing for how it's going to look. So
Okay.
like you have to kind of black out. I mean, like if I said, well, he played the bass guitar, most people would write bass, but really we need bass because it's
Right.
BSS,
Yes.
and our language is so difficult. I mean, a quick little funny story. When I was a little kid going to nursery school and that kind of thing, I had my own language. I had my own language. And so therefore, as a little kid in nursery school, I had 0 friends because
Oh, you poor thing.
no one could understand me. My parents looked at me like, what are we going to do with this kid? we can't understand her. She has her own language. She's just kind of off in left field here. I went through 3 years of speech language therapy to learn English. And so
Wow.
I kind of think it's so weird that this is the profession that I ended up in, especially since I had that kind of, I don't know if you say handicap as you will, but my early years were definitely not easy with this language at all.
Right. It was challenging. And,
It was very challenging.
I think you're an advocate, whether you know it or not, for for just the language in children. I don't know if you share that story very often, but I have friends that have young children that are concerned about their speech and whatever. And I feel like that is a wonderful story that I'm excited to be able to share with people, because children do learn at such different ages. And I'm just baffled that that was something that, like you said, it was kind of ironic. That was a real challenge for you. And now you're the cream of the crop in this, entirely language based career. It's very interesting. So do you have any recollection of like what your challenges were, or like the way that you were pronouncing words? I'm very intrigued.
I think my parents thought that I landed on the wrong planet,
Oh no.
or maybe the wrong country. I mean, because nothing was even close to English. I mean, like, I remember this one because they used to pick on me all the time. It's to this day, my family will remind me because it happens once a year, which is happy birthday. Happy birthday for me was Agandea.
Wow. That is so
Agandea.
interesting.
Yeah. So if anyone out there knows of a language that happy birthday is Agandea, please let me know, because that's probably where I was supposed to end up.
Right? I was just going to ask, like, did you have any family members that were speaking a different language? Or what a remarkable
No.
thing to just, I mean, it really is pretty fascinating that you just created your own language. It takes kind of a lot of skill to be able to do that. I mean,
I don't think it was that so much. I think it was just in my head. And my mom was a school teacher. So I think it was even more frustrating to her because she's thinking, hey, come on, like, I'm a
right.
teacher. You should be,
Yes,
with
yes.
it.
Yeah. What an interesting, that is really a cool story. I can't even imagine, yeah, the challenges that you had to go through and that your parents did, but obviously it all worked out. So,
Yes. Thank goodness.
but I mean, you could also maybe be, creating some language for covert operations. The sky's the limit. Who
That would
knows
be
what,
cool.
right?
Yeah.
There
Oh,
are
yeah.
endless
I
opportunities.
love crime thrillers and things like that.
Yeah, definitely. I know I always think about how, things progress and different career paths go. And I think sometimes, how AI has taken over, and all these sorts of things, but like nobody's dictionary matches, right? Like we all have things that we've written on our own. So I think like maybe one day I'll be writing code for some, you know what I mean? Because no one else would be able to, like, it wouldn't be deciphered very easily, especially if you don't know our language.
Oh, totally. I used to have a vanity plate for my car. This was years ago, and it was my nickname, which is just niece, and so it was TPHAOES. And it was more than once that people would pull up beside me and roll down their window and go, "What the heck does your plate say?" And I would get really mad trying to figure this out, and I'm like, I'm a stenographer, and it says niece, and they're like I would know that, you
Right,
know?
right. But that's the thing, it's a very exclusive club, right? So
That's
whenever
right.
I see anything, I'm like, oh, that's a court reporter, and it's very few and far between. But yeah,
We
it
are
is
just
awesome.
a very unique breed for sure.
Absolutely. Yes. And I love that we are using this platform to educate more people, because we have a ton of jobs and we need more people to be in our club for sure. And you were saying that you weren't able to find a job when you first came out of school, but now that we have things, pretty much everything is remote. I barely go in person anymore. I feel like the sky's the limit, right? I mean, there's just so much work. And for captioning, did you go in, or were you doing that remotely?
The captioning was all remote, except for, I mean, there were some on-site jobs, but captioning 99% is going to be remote. I had a great gig going before COVID. I was hopping on a plane and flying down to Facebook and captioning Mark Zuckerberg every Thursday afternoon from 4 to 5. That was
Wow.
a really fun gig. I've traveled up to Amazon in Seattle and done a lot of captioning up there. I've captioned at the Fiesta Bowl a couple of years. I mean, I got to do some really cool things, and I'm happy with what I got to do in my career, but also I feel like that my career has morphed. I mean, I was a captioner and then I was training people to become captioners, and I
Right.
realized very quickly that their dictionaries were very inept. So I'm like, how am I going to get their dictionaries, you know, more well-rounded to enter the captioning world? And so I created Dictionary Jumpstart, which to date is the only dictionary building program in our industry. And there's 10 different modules of vocabulary. 5 of them earn you PDCs, which equal CEUs. So you're getting credit for bettering your writing, bettering your dictionary, and earning credit at the same time. So that's kind of how my speaking presentation started, was because I created Dictionary Jumpstart, and so states were inviting me to come and speak about Jumpstart. They were realizing the importance of dictionaries.
Yeah.
And so, I did a lot of research for Jumpstart. In those 10 different modules, there's about 165,000 words. So that again morphed into teaching caption masters, which morphed into realizing that reporters needed one-on-one training, and kind of ended up to where I'm at now.
Yeah.
So I've loved presenting at states. I've presented at many NCRA conference conventions, annual conventions, and I've been to, I think, 43 or 44 states now. And the two that stand out on my list that I really would love to go to are Missouri and Alaska. I cannot believe after all this time I haven't gone to Missouri or Alaska yet to present. So maybe to 2024, maybe someone will reach out and I can head up to Alaska or head to Missouri, of all places.
Yeah. Well, I mean, St. Louis is a big city. And so, yeah, I definitely see that in your future. There's, especially, you know, like you said, now real time is so, not that it's never, hasn't always been valuable, but like there is a lot of value in it now. Just because there's so much more demand for it, right? Like there's just so much more of a need for it than there was before. And so I'm just interested too, though, like, so how did you morph into training? What changed in you that you said, okay, now I'm going to change my career and start training people? Like, how did you say, I'm going to create this dictionary? What are the things you were thinking?
Well, Jumpstart was a necessity because I really was trying to get someone on air. And so I started doing a ton of research, with words and stuff, and she would get those in her dictionary, and then that's morphed over the years. And it's, if I do say so myself, it's a fabulous program, especially names. Names are, a big weakness for a lot of reporters. So I've
Yeah.
got like a names module that has girls' names, boys' names, the top, 7,000 surnames according to the U.S. Census Bureau, airlines, autos, brand names, all of that kind of stuff. If you just
Yeah.
spend a little bit of time and you get it all in your dictionary before you need it, you're going to have a lot more confidence when it's said and it's coming out beautifully,
Yeah.
Um, as far as teaching caption masters, I kind of wasn't given a choice regarding that because Judy Brentano created Caption Masters, and she was at a point in her life where she unfortunately had gotten ill and had contacted me and said, I really want you to take care of my baby. Can you continue, Caption Masters and teach it for me? And I'm like, I don't know how to teach. And she's like, yes, you do. You teach people how to use Dictionary Jumpstart all the time. She goes, I've seen you countless times. I would follow her around to cities when she was, teaching Caption Masters. And I'm like, yeah, but that's a software program. Like, this is teaching. And she's like, you're going to do it.
No option. You were
Right.
voluntold.
And I said, can you at least give me a couple of days to think about it? And she's like, yeah, I'll call you back in 2 days and you're going to say yes. Click.
I love it.
But for those who knew Judy, rest her soul, a very, very unique, awesome lady, one of our past NCRA presidents. And, it was one of the best things that could have ever happened to me. I literally look at that. That was a huge turning point in my career. And I literally think of that as like I was left this inheritance by a relative. And that was something that I needed to take really good care of and, uphold the integrity and the authenticity of it and keep that available for reporters who wanted to become the creme de la creme captioners, that they wanted to be.
Yeah.
So that's where it started, was Judy's belief in me to be a teacher. And then things morphed into, we need real-time training one-on-one because everyone has different issues. And I
Yeah.
really, teaching a room full of reporters it was a start back in the day, but it's just not advantageous in the long term because there's so many things I can solve much more quickly. I'm going to move because of the sun.
Yeah, totally.
Um, it it's something that I can tackle much more quickly if we're just one-on-one. And those
Right.
4 1-hour sessions, we can tackle so much and just get down to the nitty gritty and solve things. And then people are happy. They're like, that's been bugging me forever. And I'm like, it's solved now,
Yes. So when it comes to that type of stuff, is it just mostly like dictionary conflicts, or is it actual like software? For example, for some stupid reason, W-2 for me, when I write like, your W-2, it comes out W-2, and then, a sentence later, there's a space. And I don't have any idea. And I mean, I'm sure all of the pros out there are shaking their head or whatever. I'm like, I need Cindy Lynch in my back pocket. I don't know why. W-2 always does that. So that's what I'm wondering is like, is it those types of things, or is it mostly, or is there even a mostly, or is everything just totally different for everyone?
So I have quite the rundown that we go through. We look at everything from just looking at theory. A lot of people, like you mentioned, Deanna, learned theory a long time ago before real time was taught. And so, we still have people who are writing one syllable words in 2 strokes. And that's just kind of cray cray.
That
Like we don't have
is.
time for that these days. So,
Yeah.
we kind of go through theory. They write a quick little dictation file for me and we review it together. And people are very often shocked at what's not in their dictionary. And they're like, well, I don't know why this isn't in my dictionary. And what I want to say is, because you didn't put it there.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
It's not there because you didn't put it there. So, but we go through and we look at theory, and then we also look at stacking issues, boundary issues, word boundary issues, lots of things like that we can go through so that we can make writing, the JY theory, the jump out, jovry over, jump up, is a fantastic theory that was created by the awesome ladies at the National Captioning Institute in the late 80s, early 90s. And I still teach it to this day because it's flawless and it's amazing.
Yeah.
There's just a ton. I mean, the training earns zero point 0.7 CEUs, which is kind of a big chunk.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, it is.
yeah. So it's a lot of fun. It really, selfishly, I just love the teaching aspect because I get to see where we start and I get to see where we end. And then I get to see the email that they pass their CRR. And I also, kind of say to them, this isn't just about getting that CRR after your name. This is about saving your sanity, saving your hands, working smarter, working more efficiently. The cleaner and more perfect that we get it from the writer, the less time you're going to sit at the QWERTY board editing. Because
Yep.
once you put your hands on the QWERTY board, you're losing money.
Yeah.
I mean, we have this expertise of writing on a steno machine. And so if we can get it as clean as possible from there, that's when we're making the big bucks.
Absolutely. And I remember that's what our teachers would tell us in school is like, if you're doing real time, you're literally doing the same amount of work, right? You're still at there. The deposition is just the same amount of time, you're not doing, but then you're saving all of the time on the back end. And that's, I mean, everybody says that. It's so true. And just the editing, the scoping process, which I think is really, enticing for, like you said, if you don't want to do all of that, to have captioning and that real-time capability is just a perfect way to be able to do this and do it in a different capacity. And then when you are done, you're done. For me, I would say that, probably something like 70% of my work is all in the edit. Do you know what I mean? It's all in that later part of it. The deposition itself is not the major chunk of my work. So yeah, I'll be calling you, girl. We need
I hope so. We would have fun.
I know, we totally would. We totally would.
Yes.
I just never, I am of the belief that fewer strokes is better, right? Like you said, I don't have time for that kind of a thing. So I have conflicts. I write Doug and Did You Go in the same way. And the beautiful thing about my software, I use Case Catalyst, is that it will predict, you already know this, but for those who may not know, it will predict for me what the right answer is because of the content. The software is amazing, but how many times do I have to write it before it knows that? Do you know what I mean? That's the problem. So, and I did yeah. So anyways, we don't need to talk about me and my dictionary. I want to talk more about you because you have not only become, so now you've had like a million careers. So you were a captioner for quite some time and then you morphed into now creating a dictionary. So you're a content creator. You've taken over Caption Masters. You do one-on-one training. Is there a name for that? I can't remember. What's that program called?
Peak Performance Real-Time Training, and it's available at learntorealtime.com.
You heard it here, folks. LearnToRealtime.com. And then you made a game, which I cannot wait to get. And then you wrote some books or something too, right?
I did. These are some of my books right here. And actually, I want to grab the game.
Okay, grab it. So what is simpler syllables? Yeah, definitely. Let's see it.
I'm sorry.
Nope, that's okay. And then terrific tidbits. I love that. And are those both part of the Jumpstart dictionary? Are they totally independent?
Nope, these are just books with, this has a ton of brief families, and this one has word pieces, prefixes, suffixes, and this also teaches the JY theory that I was talking about.
Okay, that's awesome. And then if somebody wants your books, where do they go to get those?
They can go to learntocaption.com and click on store and click on books.
Okay, perfect.
So the game is called Steno Fanatic.
That is awesome.
This is way fun if I do say so myself. I woke up a year ago Mother's Day morning with this crazy idea in my head. And I wrote it all out on paper and I was like, oh my gosh, what is this? And within a few days, I had the first deck of cards made out with, cards that I'd ordered from Amazon that I could, have a dummy set.
Right on. Yeah.
And I played it with my sweetheart and he's like, you're onto something here. He's like, this can be really cool. I'm like, are you sure? You're not just saying that because you love me, right? And he's like, no. And so the game is in English and Steno, so everybody can play the game, everybody. And it is trademarked, it's produced, it's available at stenofanatic.com, it's available on Etsy, it will soon be available on Amazon. I played it with 4 state associations this year in California. We had 90 people playing Steno Fanatic. They loved it. Every association has loved it.
I bet. What a great way to also bring people into sort of our world, right? And to sort of give them
that was my intent. You read my mind, Deanna. That was totally my intent. I'm like, okay, it has to have English and Steno. Everybody has to be able to play it. And now my sweetheart refuses to play any other game.
Oh,
because he beats me at it, of course. So then he's like, well, we're not playing any other games for the rest of our lives. We're just going to continue to play. He goes like, how many decks do we have? I'm like, we have plenty of decks of cards. He's like, and of course the deck we're playing with has lasted forever.
That's awesome. So are they what do they call them? Like bonus packs? Is that what you mean when you say plenty of decks? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, I'm just saying that I ordered enough for us, for our entire industry.
Got it. I love that.
They're all in storage. They're all ready to be shipped out as soon as anybody, wants to purchase them. If they like my Facebook page, Learn to Caption, if they like my Facebook page, near that Thanksgiving weekend, I'm going to have a coupon code for free shipping on Steno Fanatic. So, be sure to like the Learn to Caption Facebook page and you'll get that coupon code.
That is good to know. Absolutely. I think I don't have social media, but I feel like I need to start one just so that I can connect with all of the, all of the cool stuff that's going on there behind the scenes.
Right.
So we have a couple of things that we wanted to touch on. I'm low pro trying to creep on my stuff that I wanted to make sure to ask you because I told you, girl, we could just talk for hours. And we're like, we're going to keep it to 20 minutes. And here we are.
I know.
It just
Here we are.
happens. Yeah, exactly. So, what about your one-on-one training? Are you fully loaded with that? Can you take on more people? Is there a wait list? Like, how does that look?
Thank you for asking that. So I run the registration only 4 times a year.
Okay.
So registration will be coming up the end of December to the beginning of January, and registration will close like around January 10th.
Okay.
So registration is open beginning of January, beginning of what is that? End of March, beginning of April, kind of that, every quarter kind
Quarterly.
of.
Yeah. And then,
Yep.
so you're doing it one-on-one. Do the people that are taking it, do they know, like, do they do any collaborative work, or has that ever even come up?
So people can, when they, either people who have trained with me or people who are going to train with me, they can join my Hour of Steno Power, which is the first Monday of every month. And that's where we
Okay.
all get together. And that's like a group thing. I think I've got like 170 people in that group right now. And
Wow.
so, but they have to have either trained with me or are training with me, because I'm going to be talking about things that I've talked about in training, and either, reviewing things that we've learned before, introducing new things. Sometimes I give away Dictionary Jumpstart add-ons so that they can quickly add like diabetes terms or asbestos terms, or, things like that.
Yeah.
I love doing research. I love creating content. And so, did I answer your question?
Yeah, just that there are people that you do this once a month, which is amazing that people get together. Because I think for me personally, that was a really challenging part of learning, just getting through school, was that I was online and I was isolated and I was alone. And so I just really, I get my energy charged when I'm around other people. And so, not everybody is like that, obviously. And we're finding out, I think, more and more that a lot of people are actually introverted. But so for me personally, if I could just have you with me for all of the time that I needed to do stuff, that would be great. But who has that kind of time? But, that's amazing. 170 people, just to be able to, hop on and collaborate. That's a really cool asset. I think that's a really great thing to offer to your students.
It's a fabulous group. We're very supportive of each other, and like I said, we either review things, go through new things, talk about what's going on in the industry, all sorts of fun things. And so, yeah, that's the first Monday of every month. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. My passion is helping reporters become the best they can be. And even for myself, when I went through 6 months of professional training, I mean, it can be a little intimidating, because you're thinking, how am I coming in at compared to so-and-so, or, those kinds of things. And I always reassure people, like, this is a zero judgment zone, like, I'm here to help you. If you have reached out to me, that tells me that you have a learning spirit and you're ready to change and evolve and grow and come into your own in this industry. And so I am here for nothing more than to support you, inspire you, keep you motivated, and keep giving you the tools that you need. When someone trains with me, they have lifetime access to all the handouts, so that they, the training isn't going to be, even though the training is limited to a 90-day window, if people have a lot of changes that they need to make, they may be making those changes over the next 6 months.
Right.
So that's why they have access to the material, so that they can gradually institute those changes to become better.
That's so awesome. I really just admire your just dedication to helping the profession and helping the people in the profession, because that's really a huge challenge for me, is the confidence, right? Like, you start to feel like, maybe somebody has a thick accent, and you just, as and maybe some people don't know, you're really not supposed to hesitate, right? You're just supposed to capture and keep going. And that is one of the biggest challenges for me is that confidence and worrying if I get a doctor who just starts rattling off spondylolisthesis is always my go-to word because I had never heard it before and I was still a baby reporter and it really shook me.
Oh,
Yeah, deer in headlights, like, oh my gosh. So I just think that it's so empowering and that's where we all want to be, right? At a place where we feel good, we feel confident. And I just really have such admiration for such a self-starter, somebody who has just decided that they're going to not only be good themselves, but just going to help other people be good. It's really great quality to dedicate yourself to helping other people. I mean, that's amazing. And you've been able to make a living at it, which is just a twofer, that's really remarkable. So I'm just in total admiration of your, skill set and
you're
your
too sweet, Deanna.
I'm going to be on your student list. It's going to
I
happen.
know. I hope so. I'd love us to, we could start 2024 off with a bang.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's really no reason not to be, amazing at what you do, right? There's just, it's totally okay to be fine at what you do, but I really thrive in a place where I feel good and having anxiety about it is just not necessary, right? So I just love that that's kind of all about your training is just to get you to a place where you feel empowered and capable, and you are. You've learned how to do it. I mean, that's wonderful. So before we, go down another rabbit hole of all of the things we could get caught up in, I think you said you had a gift for everybody listening. So I wanted to make sure that you could plug some more of that cool stuff and get some more traction. So what do you got for us?
Definitely. The other thing I wanted to say is that the number one thing that I hear from people when I'm working with them in one-on-one training is, I wish I would have done this a long time ago. I've been wasting a colossal amount of time. Usually after the very first hour of training, people are like, I can't even believe the difference in my writing after 1 hour of training. I mean,
Wow.
and it's just, these are things that you learn from professional training. I was trained by an amazing captioner,
Yeah.
and she taught me how to edit correctly. She taught me all these amazing things. And those are things that are going to literally change your life and
Yeah.
literally change, your outlook on the industry. It's going to keep you so motivated because you're going to have this renewed passion for what you're doing. So if
Yeah.
you feel been feeling like in the doldrums about things like, oh, I have to do another deposition, or I have to go into court, I have to do, get fired up again. And I
Yeah.
can help you do that, hands
Yeah.
down. So
Absolutely.
um, yeah, I do have some goodies. So uh, Peak Performance Real-Time Training is the one-on-one training program. However, the precursor to that is I have a complimentary webinar called Terminate Transcript Turmoil. And
Oh,
I teach
that
you
sounds
in that complimentary webinar how to edit correctly. And this was
okay.
something that unfortunately they just did not teach us in school.
They
I've
don't.
trained 1,300 people, and not one single person was able to say, "Oh yeah, I know this. I know how to edit in this way." Every single one was like, "This makes so much sense. Why didn't they teach us this in school?" And I'm like, "I don't know." I said, "But because I was taught during my captioning training when I was a 20-year-old kid, I just thought everyone had learned this."
Right.
Well, not everybody trained with the awesome person who trained me. So that Terminate Transcript Turmoil webinar, perhaps there can be a link that can accompany uh, this this presentation that maybe can be put
Yeah.
to be able to grab that.
I think that can be doable. We'll let the tech wizards on the back end there handle that. Excuse me,
Okay,
but
perfect.
yeah, yeah, I think I'm trying to think of like how could we, if we couldn't do a link, how could we get around that? Uh, but we can put, in an email blast or something, we can put a link in there because I think, like you said, it's something that everybody should have. And you almost don't know what you're missing, right? If you don't realize that there is a better way to do it. And so is that specific to software? Because, you have people on different softwares.
Yeah. Oh no, I mean, it's anybody on any software can learn this technique, and it's a
Wow.
game changer. I mean, I don't have any on translates. you know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you
Oh,
get to a point where you're not going to have any. And I mean, if that's not music to everybody's ears, I don't know what is, you know?
yeah, absolutely. And so if you don't know, which if you don't know, I'm surprised you stayed with us this long, and I am very happy that you have. But if you don't know what an untranslate is, it's probably because you're not in the industry, and that is our steno machines is a form of shorthand. And if you end up stroking something that doesn't make an actual word, it just comes up in that shorthand form. Is that how you would describe it, Anissa?
Yes, I think you
Yeah.
did great.
Yeah. So just like you were saying with your nickname, right? It's the TPHOAOE. Yeah. So it doesn't mean anything, and that is a horrifying thing to me about being in real time, is that if something were to come up as an untranslated, an attorney would call me out, and then I would just be bright red and totally embarrassed. But that's amazing that you don't have any untranslate. I have the little box that, comes up when you start. And so every day I'm looking, it's like, 0.09, but that still means I had, 3 to whatever it could be, right? Obviously, it depends on how big the transcript was. But I'm like, no, I think only
Right.
one time in my entire career have I had 0 untranslates. Only
Hey,
once.
that's great.
Well, I
That's
mean, the one time was
awesome.
great.
Right.
People were talking real slow. So I can still delete. I'm like, oh, and you know what I mean? You have time to clean that up or do anything. But when they're going super fast, and yeah, so that is a really exciting, you know, uh, probability and exciting option to have out there. It's still something that can be attained. And I think there are a lot of us that would just breathe easier if we didn't have that anxiety. And maybe not. Maybe I'm the only one who's over here freaking out and no one else cares. But
I would love every single reporter on the planet to watch Terminate Transcript Terminal so that they would realize, like, oh, wow, there's a way to do this, and I'm going to make myself better even if I don't do anything else on the whole planet. Like, if I
right.
just watch this for 90 minutes and do what she tells me to do, because the bottom line is there's no such thing as a perfect stenographer. I mean, the word charge is in my dictionary 25 different ways.
Wow.
12 of them I've never written in my entire 30-year career. But, we're not perfect writers. So the key is creating the dictionary so that it makes up for your shortcomings.
Yeah.
And if you do that, you're going to have magnificent real time. And that's part of what I teach people when they're going through peak performance real time training.
Yeah, that's
So,
amazing. And I love that, just the sort of admission that like there is no perfect reporter, right? Like we all are humans, and so this is kind of the loophole there, is to make your software work for you. Which I think we hear all the time, and it just feels maybe daunting, just to after you've worked so much and you've done, but it sounds like you've really narrowed it down to an exact science, and that is remarkable. I can't imagine how much time you had to spend to do that, just to create that.
it's been a labor of love, honestly. It really has, because it all makes sense. It's all very, as reporters go through it, they're like, I totally see what we're doing here. Like, I get this. You're making sense to me. Like, this is not rocket science. It just had to be presented to me in this way, bit
Right.
by bit, so that I can understand it and I can do it. Just like we were
Yeah.
talking, the fewer strokes we write, the fewer strokes, the fewer mistakes you're going to see.
Yes.
So, shorten your writing. Make sure you're writing one syllable words in one stroke,
Yeah.
Nobody's a perfect reporter, all of these things, but it's just a matter of the better you become, the more confident you're going to be. That confidence grows. You're spending less time at the QWERTY board. You're not missing events on the weekends and evenings and things like
Yeah.
that. And then that hopefully leads to longevity in your career.
Right.
I'm honestly a little surprised that we don't have a higher burnout rate in this profession, just because I see firsthand how hard people are working.
Yeah.
And when I tell them, you're working really, really, really hard, and they're like, I am. But, we all work on an island. I mean, we
Right.
don't see each other's real time to know where things are coming in at. And so, um, just to kind of have that enlightenment of there's things we're going to do here that's really going to make your life a lot easier. And so it's fun. It's just a ton of fun. I feel like when I'm working with reporters one on one, I'm like, they're just in my house. even though we're on screen together.
Right.
Like they're in my office for an hour and we're meeting over coffee and we're fixing things and making their world better and off they go. And then they come back and we, keep continuing on the journey.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, you have accomplished so much, and I promise we are going to wrap it up here soon, but you have accomplished so much, I mean, seemingly in a pretty short amount of time, albeit, you could say 30 years is a decent chunk, but there's just been a lot in there. Is there anything that you still think that you need to do or you want to do? Any of those things that you are working on right now, maybe? And not that you need to, because like I said, you have done so much, but I just wonder, like, how does that work for you? Do you just does it just come up one day and you're like, I'm going to do this, or is this just a whole list of things that you want to accomplish?
My brain is always thinking in a creative way, but I learned a lesson. My dad had a doctor, and one of the last times my dad went to see this doctor, the doctor said, "This is your last time seeing me." And my dad was like, "What? Like, is there something wrong with you?" And he said, "No." He said, "The deal is, I have worked a full career as a specialist in this field, and it's time for me to share my knowledge. And therefore, I am going to teach." And
Yeah.
he was going to university to start teaching students, med students. And my dad was really sad because he really loved this doctor. But my dad told me that story, and I was like, that's where I am. Like, I've done and done and done and created, and yes, I'll continue to create as things pop into my head, but I'm so ready to instill my knowledge in other reporters so that hopefully this will carry on for a very long time and they will benefit from all the mistakes that I made along the way,
Yeah.
that I'm going to make them aware of. This is why we can't do this. This is why this is going to work better for you, so that they're not spending time, reinventing the wheel, so to
Right.
speak.
No, absolutely. And that is amazing. All right. So on our way out, I do want to ask you one more question and then I will let you go for your Friday night. I want to know,
Okay.
what is your favorite thing about your career?
The versatility of steno, the versatility of it, and just learning this language and getting up to speed on the steno machine. I mean, there's just loads of opportunities out there, and there's so much money to be made with a very advanced skill such as just real time. The CRR. I mean, I just love all things steno. I feel like I was put on this planet just to live in this language fully.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's amazing. And it makes perfect sense. You are in full control of your destiny, of your financial independence, of your career and that path and where it leads you. And I think that is a wonderful thing for people to be able to have access to, especially, in previous generations. You worked on the railroad and that was it. That was what you did. That was your life, and these are just different times and people want to have that versatility. And I agree, it is just a wonderful asset to this career. And you are an asset to this career for sure. And I'm just really
Uh,
grateful for your dedication and your willingness to help everybody and share your expertise, really share with people, because that's what makes us stronger when we work together, for sure.
Thank you so much for having me, Deanna. This has been a blast.
My
And
pleasure.
I thank you to all the listeners who hung in there and stayed with us till the end. Thanks for listening. And like I said, you can find out more about peak performance real-time training at learntorealtime.com. And you can go to learntocaption.com and check out books and webinars. I've got 8 different webinars that I've done. And of course, you can check out Steno Fanatic on the
Yes.
same site or at stenofanatic.com.
Don't forget to like it on Facebook and get that discount code.
That's
Yes.
right. That's right. Exactly. Yes. And the holidays are coming, and what better time to sit around and play games?
Absolutely. It's perfect time for that discount. Well, thank you
Great
so
stocking
much.
stuffer.
Yeah. All right. We will sign off. Thank you. This has been Anissa Nierenberger, and I appreciate your time. And thank you to everybody. You guys have a wonderful weekend.